So, good day, ma'am. I'm Arianne Umoso from Cluster A Group 22. So, this is my Partograph, and the function of Partograph is to monitor the progress of labor and identify and intervene in cases of abnormal labor. Before we start, let me say the overviews. First is the mother's information. So the patient's name is Mrs. L.A., gravida of 2, para of 1. Date of admission is October 1. Time of admission is 10 a.m. Below the mother's information is the fetal heart rate. We know that the normal range of fetal heart rate is 120 to 160 beats per minute. Then the next below the fetal heart rate is amniotic fluid. Once the membranes rupture, the color of amniotic fluid is noted. And if the membrane is intact, right I. If the membrane is ruptured, right R. If the membrane is ruptured and clear fluid, right C. If the meconium is stained fluid, right M. And if is blood is stained fluid, right B. If blood is stained, right B. And below the amniotic fluid is molding. This is the important indicator of how adequately the pelvis can accommodate the fetal head. This is noted. This is noted every 4 hours, and there are 4 ways to note the molding. First is if the bones are separated and sutures are felt easily, record 0. And if the bones are just touching each other, record 1 plus. And if the bones are overlapping, record as 2 plus. And if the bone is overlapping severely, record as 3 plus. Next is the cervical dilatation, which is flat X. Each vertical side of the rectangle shows 1 cm of dilatation, and each sides of horizontal of the rectangle shows 30 minutes, and each square represents 1 hour. And this is noted every 4 hours. The 2 diagonal lines represent the alert line and action line. The alert line is represent the rates of cervical dilatation, 1 cm per hour, and action line, it is the cervical dilatation reaches or crosses the action line. It means very slow progress of labor. Then next is the descent head, which is the flat O. This should always be assessed by abdominal examination before doing a vaginal examination, as the large caput may give a false judgment about the situation. This should not take place when the cervical dilatation should not reach to 7 cm. Each vertical side of the rectangle is 1/5 of the head above the pelvis brim, and each horizontal side of the rectangle shows 30 minutes. Below the cervical dilatation there is a space for recording of uterine contraction. So, there is a recording of uterine contraction per 10 minutes, and the scale is numbered from 1 to 5. Each square represents 1 contraction, and duration of contraction is indicated as that contraction is less than 20 seconds. If diagonal lines contraction lasts lasting between 20 to 40 seconds. And if solid shading, contraction more than 40 seconds. Below the contraction per 10 minutes is the oxytocin, units per liter, drops per minute. Then below that is drug given and IV fluids. Then below that is the vital signs, which is pulse rate. Pulse rate is record every 30 minutes and marked as a dot. And blood pressure is record every 4 hours and marked as arrow. And temperature is record every 2 hours. Lastly is the urine analysis. The protein, acetone, and volume record when urine pass. So let's begin. Let's begin to the partograph of the patient. So upon admission, the fetal heart rate is 140 beats per minute with intact membrane. And after 4 hours, the fetal heart rate is 130 with clear fluid. And after 4 hours again, the fetal heart rate drops in 100 beats per minute with meconium stained and have bone with overlapping. Next is the reason of dropping fetal heart rate, and I will explain mamaya. So next is the cervical dilatation. Upon admission, the client is at 5 centimeter dilatation, which is an active phase. If it is satisfactory, the plotting should be in alert line. And after 4 hours, from 5 cm dilatation, it is now 7 cm. And it moves on the right side of alert line, meaning it falls between the alert line and action line. It is abnormal and it needs to critically assess. And then after 4 hours again, it is still in 7 cm. And there is an arrest dilatation, and it moved to the right side of the action line. So this is the critical line where specific management decision must be made. Next is the descent of head. Upon admission, the client is at 5 cm, and after 4 hours, it declines to 3 cm. There is a protracted descent of head, so there is also decline in fetal head. So there is also a decline in fetal heart rate. So, and this happened because of the protracted cervical dilatation. And the progress of dilatation must be 1.5 cm or more, since she is multipara, but her progress during 4 hours is 2 cm only, which means the program every dilatation is 0.5 cm only. Then the protracted descent head must be 2 cm or more, since she is a multipara, but after 4 hours, it's only 2 cm. And after 4 cm again, the descent head is declined to 1 cm. And as I said, it should be 2 cm per hour. So that's the reason behind the drop of fetal heart rate, because of the arrest in the cervical dilatation and protracted descent of head. Next is the contraction per 10 minutes. So Upon admission, the first 4 hours, there is 3 per 10 minutes, and it is diagonal line because the contraction is last between 20 to 40 seconds. Ito. Then, the second 4 hours, there is a 4 per 10 minutes, and it's solid trading because the contraction is more than 40 seconds. Ito. And sa and the last hour, there is a 5 per 10 minutes, and this is solid trading. Next is the vital sign. First is the pulse rate. Upon admission, the pulse rate is 88 beats per minute, and after 4 hours, it's 90 beats per minute. And after 4 hours again, it is 100 beats per minute. Next is blood pressure. Upon admission, is 120/70, and after 4 hours is 130 to 70, and after 4 hours again, it is 140/80. And the temperature upon admission is 37. After 4 hours is still 37. And after 4 hours again is 37.5. The blood pressure on the last 4 hours is 140/80, which indicates PIH as evidenced by positive protein in urine, and the temperature of 37.5. And lastly is the urine analysis, protein, acetone, and volume. The protein is positive and the volume is 200 ml. So that's it. Thank you for listening.